Well, my name's Elizabeth. I am GreyAutumnRain on Ravelry, and today is September 27th, 2017, and this is my third episode of my attempt at a podcast. So it's been 2.5 weeks since the last time I podcast, and I've gotten a fair amount of knitting done. I actually delayed it so that I could podcast after I'd finished a couple of items that I intended to gift to somebody, and I will say more about that in a little bit. I should probably start off by what I'm wearing. This is the Gearage Shell by Elspeth Levold from her Viking collection. I knit this 13 years ago, and that is the beauty of making things in wool. This is the Elspeth Levold silky wool. It's a wool silk blend with a bit of nylon thrown in for strength, and it's worn beautifully. This is tops 13 years old. Looks pretty much as good as it did when it came off my needles. So anyway, knitting finished objects. All right. First finished object is actually a pair of slippers. There is a mate to this slipper. I promise you, I made a mate to this one. I just couldn't find it right before the podcast. If you've seen my previous podcasts, you'll know that I have 3 children. They're not here right now. They're at school. I wanted to podcast when they weren't around this one time so that I could show off the gift knitting. But when you have 3 children, sometimes things just go AWOL for a while. It'll turn up once I've cleaned out all the kids' bedrooms and stuff, I'm sure. So anyway, this is another one of the non-felted slippers by Yuko Nakamura. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. It's a lovely quick knit. And the yarn I got for this was just some loops and thread charisma that I got at Michael's. Sometimes wool is the right answer, when you want something that's going to look good a decade and a half later. Sometimes acrylic is the right answer because you want something that's quick and easy to get a hold of and not too expensive because your kids are going to be wearing it all over your chronically crumb-infested floors. And I did hold this together with a novelty yarn that's a silver yarn. I have no idea what it is. I've had it for a while. But it wasn't big enough on its own to make the slippers, and I'd promised Margaret silver slippers out of it at some point. So I paired it with the loops and thread to make a nice glittery slipper. And Margaret will love this because she has her sneakers are this hot pink color. So while this is not a color I would have chosen for myself, it basically screamed her name. So that's the first finished object. The second finished object was one I've shown previously. This is a sweater that I made for Martin. I'm calling it my amazing Spider-Man sweater, or Spiderweb sweater, because he's a big Spider-Man fan, and it's patterned on a spider web, obviously in Spider-Man-ish colors, but not terribly Spider-Man-y. It's just a round yoke cardigan. It's done in Knit Picks gloss and Preciosa. The gloss is the burgundy, the Preciosa is the black, their panther colorway. And I did not use a pattern for this. I made it up as I went along. I'm actually pretty blasé about making things up as I go along. My mom did that. She taught me to knit. I've been knitting since, I don't think I even want to say when, because it'll tell you how old I am, and I sometimes like to pretend that I'm younger than I look. But yeah, so you can, if you just do, if you do a swatch and you do the math, you don't really need a pattern. You can just make something eminently wearable. Just just freestyling it. Just keep a few notes. Having said that, I'm not going to put this out there as a pattern because it's actually an incredible amount of work to write everything down, and in a way that you can easily explain to somebody else what the heck it was you did that made this nice spider web effect and everything. So while I'm a big fan of free patterns and winging it, I'm also a big fan of paying $5 or $7 or $8 for a well-written pattern, because the person who's written the pattern has actually put a fair amount of work into it, and sometimes you don't want to do the math yourself. Sometimes you want something that will just work, and you won't have to rip back the entire yoke all the way back to the neck because you screwed up, which I did with the sweater, but it works now. All right, so the next finished object I'll show you is the gift knitting. It's actually 2 finished objects. This is the Little Fair Isle hat by Pearl Soho. It's another free pattern on Ravelry. Her pattern, the original pattern had a gradient. It was a white hat with a gradient in brown for the trees. I switched that up a little bit, and I just used 2 colors of Strolltonal for each hat. The pink one is High Tea, and the brown one is Kangaroo, and they both have pearlescent as the contrast color for the trees. And these hats are actually for my daughter's 4th grade teacher's new foster kids. Now, there was a big baby boom at the school this past year. 2 teachers are out on like 1 year of maternity leave because they both had babies in August, like the music teacher and the counselor educator, both lovely ladies. And the librarian's due in December, and she's going to be out for a while, starting in December. And so last year in June, I knit 3 baby sweaters for these lovely ladies and gave them all baby sweaters because they were all having babies. Well, I have 3 children, but I also went through infertility. Margaret is the happy result of my 4th IVF cycle, so I do know what it feels like to not be able to have children in the standard way, because it was looking like it might happen to me. I got lucky. I now have 3 amazing children, and I love them dearly, and they're my biological children, but not everyone can have children that way. So I don't know what the deal is with my daughter's 4th grade teacher, but she recently got 2 foster kids in her life, and she is hoping, to get the opportunity to adopt them at some point. And so I thought, she deserves a new child gift too for the new children in her life. So she's got a little girl and a little boy, and so I made the matching hats for them because we live in Massachusetts and it will get cold. It's not cold right now. It's really a bummer on my knitting. It's the highs in the 80s, than it has been for the past few days. This is the end of September. It's insane. So the idea of wearing one of these nice warm wool hats is not so appealing today. But hopefully, please, it will get cooler soon, and the knitting stuff in wool will make more sense. So that's that, and I'm immensely pleased with this pattern. It's actually a very simple pattern. Oh, I will say one thing. I did this hat in the largest size, the kid size. It's got it's a 14-stitch Fair Isle pattern. It's got 9 repeats. Because I believe in making things for children with room to grow into them. For this, I basically did this in almost an adult size. It'll fit me. I've got a small head. So it should fit an 8-year-old boy who's as big as a 12-year-old apparently. But I did 10 repeats of the pattern, so cast on 140 stitches. It's very easy to alter patterns like that, make them a little bit bigger by adding an extra repeat. of the stitch pattern. You know, it's not rocket science. It's easy to do. And I really love the way this came out. You see the beautiful, beautiful Fair Isle pattern. All right, so I'm very pleased with that. All right. So my last finished object for this podcast are these socks that I've shown before. Got the little leaf pattern on them. It's okay. I'll write the name of the pattern down below, but I'm not going to murder it again because I don't speak German. Yeah, I don't want to make anyone else's language sound ridiculous by trying to say it. But it's a beautiful little pattern. It's again a free pattern on Ravelry. The original is not done with a contrasting color leaf band, but yeah, plenty of other people did it in the green leaf and the red sock body pattern. These are Stroll, Hollyberry, and Everglade Heather for the leaves, and I love them. They're great. They're just the perfect little sock. Yeah, I like them this length where they're like the leg is just like 3 to 4 inches. They'll come up over the bottoms of my leggings, but I have quite substantial calves, so I don't like making socks that have a long leg because then I constantly feel like they're slipping down. And yeah, they won't stay up because my calf gets thicker fast. I've got muscles there. It happens. Anyway, so that's finished objects. Works in progress. So I have another pair of those socks. It's my work in progress. And I think I also I showed the yarn for this last time. So here's sock number 1, and these are from Margaret. Margaret actually likes less negative ease on her socks than I do, and that's good because she's a growing child, and you know she'll eventually grow into them. So this sock is actually the same stitch count as I used for myself. I actually knit a bit more leg for her, so it's a good 4 inches plus the cuff. And the foot, I only knit like half an inch shorter than mine because she likes less negative ease in her socks. And I love the colors on this. I have another one in progress. I'm got the cuff, and I've picked up most of the way down the leg now for that one. So the gray is the Duff Heather Stroll, and it's a beautiful. I love this gray. I'm a big fan of gray, and this is in my mind this kind of light gray color, but not too light, is gorgeous. It's really good, and I'm really liking the way it pairs with the contrast color here. This is leftover from a Daybreak shawl I made, Stephen West Daybreak shawl. The yarn is Sundara yarn, Sundara sock yarn, and it's her Sunshine colorway. And like I said, it just uses about 40 yards to make a pair, a contrasting band on these pairs of socks. And this is a great use of that, leftover bits of extra precious indie dyer yarn, because it shows it off, and it's it's prominent, but then you can make the business end of the sock out of a less spendy yarn. And the other thing that's great about this is this sock yarn is 100% merino, and the Stroll obviously is 75% merino, 25% nylon. I used to try making socks out of the high twist 100% merino. I won't do that anymore. I don't know about other people, but I get these massive calluses on my heels and I file them down, and I do all sorts, and they just they just keep coming back, and they will rip through the heels of my socks. So I when they're 100% merino, I've ruined a number of socks that rock pairs by just wearing through the heel. And that's a very high twist yarn, and it doesn't happen to other people, but it happens to me. So now I won't make the body of a sock out of 100% merino anymore. It's got to have some nylon in there. But yeah, I wouldn't wear out the cuffs, so I can use the lovely 100% merino there, and I love it. So that's my first work in progress. Now, on for the fun one. My birthday's in September. In fact, it was 10 days ago. And I bought myself with my birthday money from my parents. Thank you, Mom and Dad. This lovely, lovely new project bag. I've been cramming. I've got these, sock bags, and I've been cramming like, small shawls and the beginnings of sweaters into these little, in fact, I've got a sweater in this sock sack. And it's just not working for me. But, when I bought my project bags, 5 years ago or so, there weren't quite as many nice bags out there on Etsy, so I was looking for larger sock bags, and this is what I got. This is Stitch Life bags. The lady who makes them is in Colorado, and as you might be able to tell from the way I look, I'm mostly Scottish, ethnicity-wise. So when I saw this, but so it's an Outlander bag, and I'm actually not a big fan of Outlander because it's a little too risque for my taste, and I find the 1745 Jacobite Rebellion depressing. Interesting, but depressing. But with the thistles and the Jacobite roses and the forget-me-nots and the blue and the gold and the thistle purple, I could not say no to this bag. I saw it and I had to have it, even though I'm not a huge Outlander fan. Though I have watched the series on when it was available on Amazon Prime, and it did make for some nice eye candy. Men in kilts will get me every time. So that's the new project bag. And the rest of my birthday money, I of course spent on yarn. And I showed you the yarn last time. It's all different knit picks yarn, but it's nice knit picks yarn. And I have been finding my fave. Speaking of a nice, well-written pattern, this was worth the $7 I spent on it. The pattern. I'm actually not a huge fan of the lace. I like knitting lace, but I like more solid lace. This is very lacy lace. So I like the kind of lace that's on the socks where it makes the little, leaf patterns and stuff like that. That's the kind of lace knitting I enjoy, where it makes a fancy, pattern, leaves or flowers or what have you. The more lacy stuff, the more open lace work, I'm not such a big fan of. But it's fine. And I wanted to do this shawl at least the first time as written. If I did it again, if I were to do it a second time, I'd probably substitute the lace. I'd probably find a different lace pattern that would work for me. But you can do that as knitters. Alright, so this is my color A, rotating into my color B, and now I'm into my third green color here, and I'm doing the lace on color C now. So hopefully, I'm most of the way till I'm through with the lace of this section, and I'll be adding my fourth color soon, I hope. I'm really looking forward to that, because I'm not super thrilled with the way that the first color looks with the second one. I mean, it's not bad, it's just it could have been better, but I'm really liking the way the color B and color C are playing together, and I think the rest of the colors will play together this nicely. But of course, the proof is in the pudding. We'll see when I knit it up. But you can really kind of, the colors really do melt into each other here. I really like that. So that's Finding My Fade by Find Your Fade by Andrea Mowry. If you haven't heard of it, you haven't been on Ravelry, because there's like over 5,000 projects already. All right. And so that brings me to my last whip, which I was debating whether to show it or not. But given that I'm only at 20 minutes, and I do like to keep my podcast short, because I think people want to see knitting content and not necessarily hear me yammer and yammer and yammer. But this I've shown twice before. It's My Celeste by Cecily Glowick MacDonald. It's a cardigan. And I haven't done that much. This is in Bronze Forest by Sundari Yarns. They're fingering silky merino. And this progress work keeper, that's where I was last time. I podcast 2.5 weeks ago, and so I've knit about an inch. But this is a low priority project for me. It's okay, I think, to have projects that you just, you knit on, an inch or two every week or two, and that, they will get done eventually. But this is a cardigan for me, and it's not as high priority as some of my other projects, like the socks for my, for my daughter, or, the Find Your Fade, which I was suddenly really excited about knitting. That was my birthday cast on. I cast it on my birthday, and, it was fun. I knit on it like for hours on my birthday. It was a great time. And I wasn't feeling as excited about this. It'll make a very nice cardigan once it's done, and I will love wearing it. But it doesn't have to get done anytime soon, especially if the highs keep being in the 80s and the lows in the 60s. It's insane. I'm overdressed almost in a shell. So, sending that nice fall weather soon, I hope. Well, that's about it for me. I guess I showed you my acquisition. I love this bag. Like I said, Schleif bags. It's so nice to finally have a bag that I can fit a proper size project in. Because this one was pictured with 5 skeins of worsted in it, and that's my typical project. Is a 5 skein worsted sweater, or a larger shawl. The little socks I don't do quite as much, though I'm doing them more now that my kids have discovered that they love hand knit socks. And really, for me, I'm a selfish knitter. I like knitting for myself. The only thing I like knitting better than knitting for myself is knitting for my kids, because that is like the ultimate selfish knitting for me. Make something that my children are going to wear and love. And I'm very lucky that they seem to love the hand knits I make them. All right, well, hopefully I'll podcast again in, a week to 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. And until then, happy knitting, everyone.